Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, this is Umar Hamid, your host, and welcome to the No Limit Selling Podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategies, and advice on how to make you better, stronger, faster. Get ready for another episode. Hello, everyone. I'm privileged to have Dr. Tony Alessandra with me today. Tony, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Umar. Glad to be here.
When I first came across your work, it was when you were playing with the platinum rule. And one of the things I loved about that assessment that you created for the platinum rule was it was so intuitive for people to understand. It must have been like 10 years ago. I can still remember it. There was like the director, socializer, relator, thinker. And that was made it so easy to kind of comprehend that assessment. So tell me about creating that. I know you've moved on to DISC now. We'll go into that a little later.
Yeah, so I actually put that assessment, the Platinum Rule assessment, online in 1996. For 4 years, I had it as a free assessment so that I was hoping people would buy my Platinum Rule book, which also came out in 96.
Oh, brilliant.
And then in 2000, after great success and hundreds of thousands of people taking the free assessment, I figured, hey, this is a business that I should pursue. And I created a company called assessments24x7.com and put the Platinum Rule assessment on there. And over the years have built in other assessments like the DISC assessment, which is very similar. It has DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. And if I link those to the terms that you previously used, dominance is really the director, influence
right.
is the socializer, steadiness is the relator, and conscientiousness is the thinker.
Interesting. And I think when I read about the Platinum Rule in your book, I think you had attributed the first assessment or thoughts around that to Hippocrates way back when he noticed different personality types.
Yeah, Hippocrates, this is BC, he talked about different, sort of like different temperaments, or blood types. I mean, it really was kind of crazy, but yes, that's how far back it goes.
Brilliant, because since the dawn of time, people have to be wondering, look at like Ugg over there. Why is he so XYZ? And they were probably chatting about it around the fire. So it's this need to understand other human beings is kind of hot wired into our survival mechanism.
Oh, absolutely. Why are some people quiet and others are chatty? Why are some people, get to the point and other people like to, socialize before getting down to business? I mean, there's a lot of interesting differences in people. And with our model, the Platinum Rule model, the broad Platinum Rule model. So Platinum Rule is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So we could use any kind of terminology for that. And the Platinum Rule concept, I don't know if you remember that book, best-selling book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yes,
I do. That? Yeah, so that was a best-selling book. And really, it is the essence of the Platinum Rule. The premise of the book was men speak Martian, women speak Venetian. And if men wanted to understand and get along better, communicate more effectively with women, they would learn to speak Venetian and understand it. And women, if you want to communicate more effectively with men, you would learn how to both speak and understand Martian. That is the Platinum Rule. The Platinum Rule is adjusting your style to meet the needs and to communicate more effectively with people who are of a different style.
So what's interesting to me is that, at an intellectual level, we all understand other human beings are different than us. But at a practical, deeper level, we see the world through our eyes and we assume people see it the same way. So there's conflict of wanting people to be like us and them not being like us.
Well, if we go way back, most societies were homogeneous. In other words, everybody was sort of the same, other than male, female, but similar backgrounds, same ethnic background, maybe a lot of the same religious beliefs. In today's environment, almost every environment is diverse, particularly the United States. Uh, and as such, we have to be more aware of these differences. And if we really want to connect with other people, be it social, be it leader, be it sales, we have to understand that people are different from us. People communicate differently. People buy differently. And we need to adjust the way we deal with them.
What's interesting is, at a very young age, we understand this to be the truth. And a good example is go to any kid that's 4, they know which parent to ask in what way to get what they want.
Absolutely.
And then somehow when we grow up, we forget that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot changes as kids grow up. An interesting example is even from a parental point of view, when a child is just getting ready to learn how to walk. When they learn how to walk, they're constantly falling down, but we're so encouraging of the child, and we're so happy and excited, and even when they make a mistake and fall down, we ignore that and only focus on the positive things. But when the
Yes.
child becomes a teenager, we go the exact opposite. It's like every little thing they do, we criticize, we don't compliment enough. When they stumble, we critique it as opposed to being positive.
So what's interesting there for me, Tony, is that we have a different set of rules for different contexts. We're looking at the world when a child is really young. The rule set that comes up is I need to encourage, I need to focus on the positive, we need to make sure everything's amazing. And then, as you said, as we get older, we get a different set of rules come up. Like I need to get them ready for the world. And we don't even realize our internal structure has changed. When they're kids, all the cute things they do kind of jump out and touch our hearts. And when they're teenagers, they could be 80% good, but that 10% kind of suspect becomes larger than it really is. So that internal rule set change happens in business, happens as parenting. Kind of your thoughts on that? Do I have that right? Kind of what's your read on that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like everything switches. And when it comes to, if we can take that example that you just made, how we treat kids when they're toddlers versus when they're teens, what we need to do is, and let's use an example, a selling environment. A lot of salespeople, unfortunately, they go in and they sell the buyer from their perspective,
Yes.
rather than understanding the buyer and selling the buyer from their perspective in terms of how they buy. Some buyers want facts, and they do not like a lot of
Bottom line it for me.
yeah. So and some buyers make quick decisions. Some buyers need to sleep on it. Some buyers want testimonials. We just need to understand. If I can use the platinum rule model, we typically break buyers into 2 categories. One is, are they more open or guarded? Basically, are they more task or relationship oriented? And the other, are they faster paced or slower paced? And if we can understand that, we can actually adjust our presentations based on those 4 modes of behavior. So, for instance,
Yes.
if somebody is task paced and fast, we get to the point. We give them 2 or 3 options. That's how we treat them. But if they are slower paced and let's just say more
People centric?
relationship oriented, which would be more the S customers.
Yes.
They want the relationship built on trust. They make decisions more collaboratively. They want other key people, a spouse, family members, advisors to get involved in making the decision. They don't like pushy, aggressive salespeople. But once they buy, they become fiercely loyal. So we need to understand that we have to adjust our selling style to fit the customer's buying style.
What's interesting to me, so all of that I get, and I agree 100% with. The part that really interests me is this, is that we have this salesperson, let's call her Janet. And Janet sells into $5 million companies, and she is fabulous. She's a master of her craft, connects with people, and she's dreaming about landing $1 billion company like McCormick Spice, which is just down the street from us. It takes her a year to get the appointment. She goes in there, and when she goes to do the presentation, something about that being so much larger a company than she's used to, all of a sudden gets her to second guess herself, and the normal game she had just disappears. So your thoughts on, our beliefs about ourselves and what's possible, how that impacts the sales situation?
Well, I'm a firm believer in doing your homework. And whether you're selling a small company where it's a one call sale or a huge company where it's a multi call sale, a small company where you're dealing with one person, a big company where it might be a committee of people, do your homework. Find out as much as you can about the company. Find out as much as you can about the people involved in the purchasing process.
Right.
And then go in prepared with a smaller product, a lower cost product, a less technical product. It may be a one call sale, and you react accordingly. With a bigger company, a bigger sale, a bigger dollar volume, more technical possibly, you may have to go through several different people and need to adjust your presentation to each style. You may have decision makers, you may have the user of the product, you may have a purchasing agent, with a big one like the company you just mentioned. And you have to get over those hurdles by literally learning all these different languages, let's call them sales languages, for each of these styles, for each of these buying types within a company. And what about, Umar, if you are selling to a group of people at one time where you have mixed personalities in that room?
Yes.
Now what do? What you do, by the way, is let's just assume you had all four styles in that room. You're presenting to a big group of people, and you need to understand whose interest you will lose first, and that is the D, the dominant style, the director. So you really, and then who would you lose second? Probably the I style, the socializer. Third, possibly the C style, which is the thinker, and last, the S style. So basically, you want to go in and basically say, that old saying, speakers are taught this: tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. So it's the overview, the presentation, the summary. So basically, you go in, if you have a group of people, and basically say, all right, here's the bottom line issue of what we're going to cover today. Here's what makes it unique and different and exciting. You notice who I'm getting now. I'm getting the socializer. Here's the step-by-step process we will take today, the agenda, so to speak. Now I got the C in there, the thinker. And here's how it affects the people within the company and your customers. Now I grabbed the S, the relator. Then I go through that same thing. Here's the bottom line benefits, in my presentation, and go through the whole presentation in that order, summarize it in that order, and that's it. Now I got everybody.
I love it. That actually makes a lot of sense, and it kind of maps over to some other systems that I've seen for teaching. Have you ever come across a system called Format?
I have not. No. What is it?
There's certain people, my wife used to be a person like this, bottom line it for me kind of gal. So it's like, start off with, why is this important for you to pay attention? And you get those D's coming on board, just like you said.
Right.
And then the what people are the people that are concerned about the process. How does this work? Give me the steps
Yes,
of doing this,
yes,
which isn't quite socializer, but it's more like the process people get happy with
yeah,
that. And
that's
then
the
going to people
thinkers.
like me and possibly you, the people that are like, shut up already and just let me play with it. And the experiential kind of learners. And then the last thing they had in their system were the people that asked the what if questions. Like, would this disc profile work if we were in Australia? And you're wondering, what? Why are you asking that? So I like it when different things kind of line up. It just lets you know that there's a greater truth working here, and it just makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very similar. We're adjusting our presentation based on the audience. Uh, I know one of your previous podcasts was with Jim Cathcart, and
Yes, brilliant guy.
yeah, and Jim Cathcart and I, we co-authored many products over the years. One was called Relationship Strategies, uh, and that's really what it's all about. It's this whole concept of adjusting our style and our communication to connect with other people. It's as simple as that. You know that old saying, "When in Rome, do as the Romans." That's
Yes.
what the platinum rule is. It's hey, depending on who you're talking to, if you really want to connect at their level, not necessarily yours.
And Tony, I couldn't agree more, because I think a lot of in the general public, sometimes that's seen as you're trying to manipulate, but no, what we're trying to do is to communicate in a way that allows the other person to understand it in the most easiest way possible. You're honoring someone by taking the time to do this.
Yes, and let me address that issue of manipulation, because it does come up every so often. I believe that there's negative manipulation. Negative
Yes.
manipulation is where I am trying to control your behavior, preferably for my benefit. And positive manipulation is where I'm changing my behavior to benefit the relationship, to lower interpersonal tension, to communicate more effectively. I'm not trying to change you, I'm changing me. A good example of that, Umar, is let's say somebody is a heavy smoker,
Yes.
and they're going on a sales presentation, and they did their homework in advance, realize the person they're calling on has never smoked in their life. So when they go in for that presentation, for however long it lasts, the person is not going to smoke. The person is not even going to ask, do you mind if I smoke? They will adapt their behavior so as to make the other person feel more comfortable with the relationship. Now, do you call that manipulation? In a
Of course
sense,
not.
I'm manipulating myself, but not manipulating you.
I agree, Tony. It's I believe that it's 100% my responsibility to make sure I connect with Tony. And if Tony happened to be doing the same thing, we have this amazing conversation that might last an hour but feel like 10 minutes because it was just flowing so well. And for the listeners out there, when you use these techniques that Tony is talking about, one of the things you can notice is when you're talking with someone in their language, you'll notice that the head nods, those microscopic little nods, is their unconscious mind saying, you get me, you connect with me. And so that I always look for as an indicator when I'm connecting with someone. If I'm getting those little microscopic head nods, that means I'm connecting at a much deeper level.
Yeah, and also look for one other thing, Umar. And
Oh, tell
I'm
me.
not sure how many people look for this. So yeah, yes, the microscopic head nods. Look at their eyes. When somebody is connecting with you, their eyes are open a little bit more, and when they're not, their eyes are closing a little bit more. When people are skeptical, when they don't believe what you're saying, when they think you're lying, you'll see that their eyes just close. Again, we're talking about microscopic here, but you got to watch those eyes. They'll close them a little bit. When they really like what you're saying, you can see their eyes open a little bit more. So watch the eyes in addition to those microscopic head nods.
And just to add to that, I think, you know that little pink triangle at the corner of your eye where it meets the nose?
Yeah,
When people are skeptical, their lower eyelid lifts up slightly, and that you can't do that intentionally. It's just an unconscious thing. And that triangle goes in half. And so if you're ready to ask for the deal and you can't see the triangles of their eyes, forget about the whites of their eyes. That means there's skepticism there and there's an objection you haven't addressed yet. So humans are fascinating. Tony, you're a master of connecting with people. What three pieces of advice would you give leaders and or salespeople that when you're connecting with your people, someone brand new that you've never met before, how do you decode them in a way that you can connect with them without having them take a profile?
All right. Well, the very first thing is listen more than you talk. So ask open-ended questions that get them to elaborate on their answers,
Yes.
and listen to them. And while you're listening, try to determine, is this person coming across faster paced or slower paced? Is the person, does it seem like they're more relationship oriented or more task oriented? So that's one thing. And when it comes to selling, not only do I want to understand their style, their pattern of behavior, but I want to understand their needs. So I want to make sure that I do a good needs analysis by asking them some good open-ended questions. Tell me a little bit about your business. In addition to yourself, who else is involved in this kind of a purchase? Have you used what's your experience been working with X company or Y company or our company?
Right.
The past. So a lot of open-ended questions rather than closed-ended questions that require a simple yes or no.
So, Tony, if I remember right, and like I said, I read your book maybe 10 years ago, maybe longer. I seem to remember in the Platinum Rule, you sorted out people that when you meet someone, whether they're introverted or extroverted. And if they happen to be extroverted, they were probably directors or socializers. And if they were introverted, they would be thinkers or relators. And then the other, the rows were, are they concerned about people, which would be socializers and relators, or are they concerned about data, which would be directors and thinkers? How does fast and slow compare to introverted, extroverted in
Well,
that context?
yeah. So I have refined that a bit. Okay, I would say that the pure extrovert would be the I style, the socializer. The
Mm-hmm.
pure introvert would be the C style, the thinker.
Yes.
But the other two styles are the D and the S, so the director and the relator, are sort of a combination of both. Uh, so D's uh, can be both introvert and extrovert. Extrovert, particularly when they are selling.
Yes.
the the S's again, or the relators, can be both introvert and extrovert. Extrovert because of their love of people and their communication with people, uh, and introvert in that they're certainly not as outgoing as a socializer. Uh, they don't like to be the center of attention. They even get embarrassed when they're let's say they're winning an award and they're called up or called out in a positive way. They kind of blush. Our shucks. It wasn't much. Uh, so yeah, what do they call it? I call it a ambivert. So an ambivert would be the D's and the S's, an extrovert the I's, and introvert the C's.
Interesting. Tony, I really appreciate you chatting with me today. I learned a lot. In the show notes, we're going to put all your websites and social media links. Any last words before we part company?
Well, Umar, we're right now, and this may date this podcast, but
I hope it does.
we're right in the middle of this coronavirus issue. And I know a lot of people are suffering. A lot of people are stressed and concerned. And whenever I go through any kind of challenge in my life, I always keep saying to myself, this too shall pass. And in today's environment, as bad as it looks or as bad as it might get, just remember this too shall pass.
Tony, thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I can't wait till our next.
Okay, thanks, Umar.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at NoLimitSelling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.